and you need to understand intrusion detection system ID and why it's highly important. You have the IDS and you have the you have the other one, which is IPS and the IDS and IPS. So why you have to understand both of them is one of them is a full security and one of them is and how should I phrase it? Like it is secure, but you cannot call it a full end-to-end security because, for example, IDS, the only thing it does is it does monitoring of any device or every devices on an endpoint as long as it is being onboarded and all the logs are being ingested. It's going to monitor any activities that happens there. So now let's call our IDS a neighborhood watch. They cannot arrest, they cannot prevent theft, but what they can do is they can raise alarm. Now, hey, you have these guys around these estates wearing maybe a mask and they can't stop them. Or I can see this malicious activity. I can see like a change or changes to this particular system file, or I can see this malicious process on this particular host. That's their job. They cannot prevent it. They can only detect. Monitoring and detection. That's their job. And now, like one is host and one is network based. So now, what do we mean by host? What do we mean by network? I've explained network to us. I've explained host. Any traffic that moves on the network, that's what they were monitoring with IDS. Host, your device, your phone, your computer, your printers, your servers, they are hosts. So now we are monitoring virtually everything there. So now with this, you can detect even like devices that are not registered to your organization. But at the same time, too, you cannot stop them because it cannot prevent any attack. So there's nothing you can do to them. So they are just preventing and they are just monitoring. So at the same time, too, like when it comes to network too, similar thing. But look at the diagram because anybody can ask you a question. Okay, yeah, can you tell me about how they set up IDS and IPS? Look at this, I will say explain better because I'll get to a place whereby you are going to see why if IDS is out of place, if one should pan out, it doesn't matter. If one doesn't sit in line, it doesn't matter. Then at the same time, I will explain when we are talking about next generation firewall, what does it mean? Anybody can ask you any of these things. So that's IDS, just to detect. It cannot prevent. So that's the when it comes to IDS. So we still get to IPS later. This one is highly important because when we're talking about work group and domain. So now, like, for example, we know what domain is. All of us, like you say, okay, wow, that domain. So how do we connect your laptop to the organization's domain? Then what do we mean by work group? Work group can be like, okay, let's say all of us, we are in the same house. Now, we have a small collection of all our laptops connected together because we're on the same network. It might be like a small organization. Now, each computer is managed individually, like your device, my device is managed individually. So with this, I'm the one responsible for my username and password. There's no central management. Nobody can just reset my password for me because obviously I'm the one responsible for these resources, like the file, the printers, everything in my house. I'm the one responsible. Likewise, same thing in your own house too. But on your laptop, there's what we call SAM, Security Account Manager. It's a database on your laptop, on my laptop. So now if you want to log in into your computer, when you punch that password, it's going to verify with the account manager, the SAM. Okay, do you know this password? Are you familiar with this username? If it says yes, now it's going to give you access to log in into your laptop. So the role of SAM here is just to verify your credentials. That's it. It doesn't require any big configuration and the likes. So even though when attackers do, they are targeting your device, they want to capture some sensitive information, your password, that's where they are going to. But domain if you go to maybe like your laptop, you say a place that's going to say like, okay, if you want to connect this to the domain, the moment you connect it to the domain of your organization, you log in with your credential, it's going to connect your laptop to them. From there, they can monitor it and manage everything on that device, because here they've given you the password. Now they can onboard it and do whatever they want to do without your device. So when it comes to the domain, now based on what you know, now it's connecting to a domain controller, a server that is acting like a central managed uh, police that is managing everything within the organization. So with this, domain controller is going to hold your username, your password, every settings. That's why they can pull GPO policy. So instead of you logging in into individual computers, you are going to authenticate with the domain controller, and it's going to validate your access. And now this will now give you access to resources across the network. So now it's going to give you access generally, but how do you now prevent you having access to some certain areas? That's when rule-based access comes in and different policies from HR comes in, like, okay, the mandatory access and the likes. So that's when they implement it. Make sure, okay, yeah, they put every details that everybody needs to know about you. So now in this case, for the work group, I said it's Sam. For this one, it's going to use Kerberos and Active Directory, which is a combination of LDAP, which I explained yesterday. Now, Active Directory stores and manage your user account, your software, and everything. So when they say you need to understand Active Directory, you see why it's highly important. And you see like, okay, domain controller is being compromised by an attacker. Imagine like a 4,000 organization that has maybe like 4,000 employees, and now the domain controller is being compromised. Now they have access. They can create. So imagine like someone like having like a master key to your house. What do you think they can do? They can do virtually anything. So that's why you see like, okay, if you understand this, and by the time we start talking about Kerberos, or maybe like a Kerberos attack, or maybe Mimikat and the likes, you're going to have a clear understanding. So in this case, Kerberos is used for what? Secure authentication. So you can read about Kerberos, which is Kerberos. So you can read about different attacks when it comes to Kerberos. So I would say like, jump on this and then do these assignments. It's just for your own good. So now that's the difference. One is used for like, okay, a small environment of maybe 10, 15, 20 computers. And like just us, yeah, if you log into your device, you can read about SAM at the same time too, because all of them are highly important. So then the next one that will be moving on to is what is user account, and then what is a service account. So now user accounts are just like associated with every individual. Like you now, they've given you your own account. That's a user account in an organization. Now you can use it to access any resource interactively. And what do I mean by interactively? Like you are interacting, you are going to interact with your password. So for example, if you want to log in into maybe like your account at work, you are going to use your username and your password, and obviously there's going to be MFA. So now like gives you access to maybe like your files, folders, and the systems within the resources. So, and you are going to interact with it, like I said, maybe like Windows login, which we are going to see during the practical. And this is good because obviously users account can be managed through like a computer managed console, or maybe like a user account control panel and the like. So now this is going to give you limited access as a standard user. Then while creating your account, we can decide to give you or elevate your privilege to manage the system, to do a whole lot of activity. So when it comes to this, it is important for us to make sure, okay, there's account hygiene, which by now we know obviously based on the password policy, there we can ensure strong password. We can enforce password expiration, like you said, 90 days when you showed us that policy. Then another thing you said is preventing reusing of password. So now these are the things we can implement when it comes to user account. So now when you are investigating a particular account, these are the things you want to check. okay, are they in place? Now, principle of least privilege, where do they have access to? Let's say there's a compromise. Now you have to go and check the level of access they have to say, okay, yeah, has anything been done by this attacker after this account has been compromised? Then with this, we can monitor the user's account to track for any login activity, any potential anomalies. So maybe like you want to check the failed logins, you want to check unusual access time. These are the things you want to check. Maybe they've done any modification, maybe they've created any account based on their level of privilege. So now these are the things you want to look into. So now you have a service account. What do we mean by this? These accounts are created to be used by application services, any background task that needs access to the resources without interaction. It might be maybe they want to execute script, or maybe they want to run maybe automated process. So now that's when it comes to service accounts. So unlike user account, I said user account, you can log into it. It can be interactive, or service accounts are meant to be non-interactive. Their job is just to operate at the background. So now, based on this little information you have, let's say you are working and an alert generated and you say, okay, this account is a service account. Most service accounts, you are going to see maybe like SVC when you check the username. So now let's say suddenly, you just like maybe someone logged in with a service account from say maybe Poland, Belarus, and the likes. What is that telling you? Now, with this little knowledge that you know presently, you are not meant to be using service accounts to be resetting password, to be performing some other activity, interactive activity. In this case, you have to jump on it. You have to investigate. Let's say it is legitimate. What will you tell them based on this knowledge that you have? You are not meant to use service account to do this type of activity. Now, account hygiene comes into place. Misuse comes into place because now they are misusing their privilege. Now you can take this up. If you have a good environment, obviously, they will tell them not to use this anymore. Then comes to the team that is used, like you need to stop doing this. So now with this little activity that then obviously we know why service account is highly important. We know the main reason why it needs to be non-interactive. And in most cases, you might see them, they might have like maybe admin kind of privilege. Because obviously, for example, let's say they are running like a web server, or maybe a database, or different services that requires maybe like continuous automated process with admin privilege. That's why you see sometimes like people, they just go there to just misuse the privilege because now they have access. So now another thing you can do is you can like narrow down people that just have access to this area. So like I said, the things you need to put in place: least privilege, monitor what anybody is doing, permissions required for that service, and maybe the application to operate. Isolation, like use separate service account for different services to minimize risk of this account being, because imagine like that type of account. Now, one password, they are now sharing the password. You can compromise that password easily. So, and how do we make sure, okay, yeah, we ensure this is protected? We need to ensure proper monitoring to make sure, okay, every activity coming from all these service accounts is being monitored. If anybody should use them, you can set up an alert to trigger an alert, okay, yeah, log into your SIM to jump on it and make sure, okay, yeah, check for every activity. Based on what I've been saying so far, now user account is what? Interactive. Then the other one is for background process, non-interactive. So then one, like you need to protect from unauthorized human access. Or now you can limit the permissions, you can isolate the services and different areas. So now these are the things you are looking for when it comes to this. So, and this one, you are going to see this one a lot. We call this one security identifier, SID. So you have like different things that you need to look out for when you are investigating. So now, like you can see on the screen, it's telling you the S indicates like, okay, SID. You are going to see this even during the practical when you start investigating. One is telling like the revision level, and 5 is telling like, okay, the authority level. 21 is saying, okay, yeah, this is like a domain identifier, like representing the domain or the computer the user belongs to. So you are going to see this, and you have the RID, which is a relative identifier. You are going to see all these. So, and you have like the well-known RIDs, for example, when you see 500, like you can see on the screen, you know, obviously, this is an admin account. When you see 501, you know, okay, yeah, this is a guest account. You know, okay, this guest has a limited access. These are the things you need to start looking for. And when you see maybe like 20, obviously, okay, yeah, this is a network service account. And when you see maybe like anything 1,000 plus, maybe like 102, 1001, 1002, 1003, you know, okay, these are regular user accounts. So let's say like during the course of your investigation, suddenly you just see, okay, or maybe like now this SSID just moved from, say, the regular account to 500. What is that telling you? Obviously, okay, something is just suspicious here. Then obviously this might be related to maybe like privilege escalation. That's why you have to understand this. Then at the same time too, we can use this because everyone is going to have each account, your account, my account, anybody's account in any organization is going to have a unique SID. Now, what does that tell you? I can give you this SID to start your information. And now you go to your SIM2, you can go to your ADR to start your analysis with that. So now what does that tell you? You can use SID to identify account types and at the same time to troubleshoot permission. So by checking the SSID, you can tell, okay, this user is using a privileged account, admin account 500, ends with 500. All these you are going to see them, and you just have to understand. You don't have to cram. That's why I said if you use any AI of your choice, do your research, read, then obviously you can take ownership of it. Ask yourself little interview question, then explain. You can record yourself. You can do this in front of your camera. You can do this in front of the mirror. So these are the things you can do. So now with this little information, I believe you know what SID is and RID is, and